So, I want you to picture this. It is June 15th, 2026. You are standing right under the massive, I mean, it's $1 billion LED chandelier inside SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles.
Yes, it's an incredible venue.
Right. And down on the pitch, this absolute 2-2 World Cup thriller is playing out between Iran and New Zealand. The crowd is like 70,000 people, and it is deafening.
Completely electric.
But outside the stadium, a literal geopolitical war is raging. You've got 11 Iranian coaches and officials banned from the country. The fans are fiercely divided, holding up illegal flags and defying international broadcast bans.
It was chaos.
Total chaos. And then at midnight, the very players that you are standing there cheering for, well, they will be forcibly escorted out of the United States.
It really is the absolute definition of a collision between, the beautiful game and these incredibly harsh global realities. I mean, the stadium didn't just reflect the outside world. It basically became the front line of it.
Exactly. And that is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to unpack this unprecedented event from, well, every conceivable angle based on our source materials.
There is so much to get into.
There really is. We are taking you into the tactical weeds of those 101 minutes of play. We'll get into the deeply divided Iranian diaspora that completely transformed the stands of what locals call Tehrangelis.
Right.
And we are going to look at the absolute logistical nightmare that the Iranian team faced just to, make it to kickoff.
Because ultimately, we want to understand what this dramatically charged night tells us about sports, media, and really the fiercely tribal nature of our world right now.
So to you, the listener, whether you are a diehard soccer fan who, obsesses over hybrid formations or just someone fascinated by modern geopolitics, this deep dive is your shortcut to understanding one of the most culturally complex sporting events in modern history.
It really is a cultural flashpoint, like the ultimate reality television.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, before we get into the timeline of the match and the border logistics and all of that, we need to set the stage. And I need to be crystal clear with you about the sources we are pulling from today.
Yeah, this is super important. The context here is extremely sensitive.
Very. And it's vital we frame it correctly. Our sources contain highly charged political context.
Right.
This includes the recent war involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran that began earlier this year on February 28th.
It also includes the widespread protests against the current Iranian government.
Yes, and diplomatic statements made by Donald Trump. So we must firmly clarify right now that neither of us here is endorsing any political viewpoints.
Absolutely not.
We're not taking any sides. We are not validating or condemning any government's actions or policies or the protests.
Right. Our job today is strictly and impartially to report the facts.
Exactly. The facts, the quotes, and the ideas exactly as they were presented in our source material. We're doing this to give you the full, unvarnished context of the event.
Because you simply cannot understand what happened inside SoFi Stadium without understanding the storm raging outside of it.
You really can.
And that storm fundamentally dictated the entire tournament for the Iranian team. I mean, the buildup for Team Melli.
Wait, Team Melli?
Oh, yeah. That's the nickname for the Iranian national team.
Okay, got it.
So their entire buildup was completely swallowed by the shadow of the war that broke out in late February.
Yeah, let's look at the timeline here, because when I was reading the sources, it was just staggering.
It's intense.
February 28th, the conflict erupts, and the World Cup, which is co-hosted by the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, is literally just months away.
Right.
And all three of Iran's group stage matches were scheduled to be played on U.S. soil.
Which immediately creates a severe diplomatic and logistical paradox.
Yeah, to put it mildly.
I mean, you have a participating nation actively in a military conflict involving the host nation. So Iran looked at this schedule and actually petitioned FIFA to move their games out of the U.S.
Does this make sense?
Total sense. From a pure operational and security standpoint, you want your players safe. You want them focused.
But FIFA rejected the request. And why? If you have three host nations, Mexico and Canada are right there, why not just shuffle the venues to avoid a massive international incident?
Because the logistics of a modern World Cup are set in stone years in advance.
I mean, sure.
But we're talking about millions of tickets sold, massive broadcasting infrastructure installed, hotel contracts, security perimeters.
Right.
To move a team's entire group stage slate 3 months before kickoff would require untangling a billion-dollar logistical web.
Wow.
FIFA essentially bet that their tournament bubble would hold strong enough to weather the geopolitical storm.
Well, spoiler alert, that bet failed
It
spectacularly.
really did.
And the diplomatic whiplash leading right up to the game was relentless. Just hours before the referee blew the whistle for kickoff in Los Angeles, Donald Trump, who was in France ahead of the G7 summit, announced that a peace deal framework had actually been signed.
Just imagine the psychological whiplash for those players.
I can't even fathom it.
You have spent months preparing for the biggest athletic moment of your life, representing a country at war with the nation whose soil you are literally standing on.
Yeah.
Your families back home are dealing with the realities of that conflict.
Yeah.
Then, literally hours before you walk out of the tunnel, a peace framework is announced from across the globe.
It's just crazy.
The emotional bandwidth required just to process that shift, while simultaneously trying to remember your marking assignments on corner kicks, it's immense.
And that's just what was happening in the headlines. On the ground, like on a micro-operational level, the fallout from these diplomatic tensions resulted in absolute chaos for the team.
Oh, a total nightmare.
11 Iranian officials were flat-out denied U.S. visas by the State Department.
Yeah.
And we aren't just talking about a couple of VIPs wanting to watch the game from a luxury suite. We are talking about the Football Federation president, the coaching support staff, and media officials.
Stripping a modern World Cup team of its support staff is crippling.
Really? That much?
Oh, absolutely. I think casual fans picture a national team as just, 26 guys and a head coach.
Right, just a guy with a clipboard.
Exactly. But these teams operate like finely tuned, high-performance corporations. They rely on opposition analysts, specialized medical staff, recovery experts, logistical coordinators, equipment managers.
Right, it's a whole machine.
When 11 key personnel are denied entry, the entire infrastructure that allows the athletes to focus solely on the game just completely collapses.
Which is why Iran couldn't even base their training camp in the United States.
Exactly.
They had originally planned to set up their base camp in Arizona, get acclimated to the climate, and settle into a routine.
Yeah, that was the original plan.
Instead, because of the visa issues and the diplomatic freeze, they were forced into exile across the border in Tijuana, Mexico.
Right.
Now, Tijuana welcomed them, but their quote-unquote home game is 140 miles away in Inglewood, California.
And that is not just 140 miles of open highway.
No.
That is 140 miles across an international border that happens to be one of the most heavily scrutinized checkpoints in the world.
Right.
Especially given the geopolitical context of the participating nations.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Too.
Because when I was reading the sources, I thought, okay, sure, it's a hassle. But these are elite athletes, right?
Yeah.
They play for massive clubs in Europe, the English Premier League, Serie A. They travel constantly. They live on airplanes and luxury buses.
Right.
So is a 140-mile commute really that devastating to a world-class team?
It is entirely devastating.
Oh, really?
And here is the physiological breakdown of why. Elite football at the World Cup level is a game of tiny margins.
Okay.
These athletes have their entire lives optimized. Their diets are tracked to the gram. Their sleep cycles are monitored.
Right.
When they travel for a club game, they fly on private charters, they bypass standard security, and they sleep in five-star beds. But the Iranian team, the day before this match, they had to endure a 5-hour gauntlet of travel and security checks at the border.
5 hours just to cross into California. That is insane.
Right. 5 hours of sitting in cramped positions on a bus or standing in holding areas, dealing with the anxiety of border control interrogations.
Yes.
When an athlete sits on a bus for that long, blood flow restricts.
Okay, I can see that.
But more importantly, the psychological stress triggers the release of cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Exactly. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and when it spikes over a prolonged period, it actually depletes your muscles' glycogen stores faster.
Wait, really? Just being stressed out drains your muscles?
Yes, and glycogen is the literal fuel your muscles need to sprint for 90 minutes. So before they even stepped onto the pitch, their biological fuel tanks were being drained by bureaucratic anxiety.
Okay, wow. That makes it so much clearer. It's kind of like being a university student, and you have to study for the most important final exam of your entire life.
Right.
But while you are studying, you are simultaneously being evicted from your house.
Great analogy.
You have no study group, your tutor isn't allowed in the building, and on the day of the exam, you have to commute 5 hours through a gauntlet of security checkpoints just to sit at your desk.
Exactly.
How does a team maintain any psychological focus when their very presence in the host country is treated as an active security threat?
They don't. Or rather, they have to draw on a completely different emotional reservoir.
Yeah.
And what really highlights the absurdity of this situation is where the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, was during all of this.
Oh, right. This part is wild.
He had actually visited the Iranian dressing room prior to the match to hear their concerns.
So he knew what was going on.
Yes, he nodded, he listened.
Yeah.
But when the game kicked off, he was sitting comfortably up in the VIP luxury seats at SoFi Stadium, effectively powerless.
That is just wild to me. We are talking about FIFA here.
Yeah.
They operate practically like their own sovereign nation. They walk into host cities and demand tax exemptions, dedicated traffic lanes, special legal jurisdictions.
It's true. Usually, FIFA acts as an unstoppable entity that forces host nations to bend entirely to its will.
Right.
It creates a frictionless bubble for its athletes. But here, the United States Department of Homeland Security and the State Department looked at FIFA's bubble and essentially popped it.
Just totally ignored it.
U.S. border security policies completely superseded FIFA's influence. It proved that no matter how many billions of dollars FIFA brings to a local economy, they still have to bow to a federal customs agent with a stamp.
It's a stark reminder that as powerful as international sports organizations pretend to be, hard geopolitics always wins.
Always. Without fail.
So the players finally make it through the border. They are physically exhausted. Their glycogen is depleted. Their coaches are missing.
Yeah.
They arrive at SoFi Stadium, and if they thought the tension was going to ease up once they got to Los Angeles, they were entirely wrong.
Oh, completely wrong.
Because what was waiting for them in the stands was a deeply emotional, bizarre, and volatile environment that mirrored the exact political storm they were trying to escape.
To understand the crowd that night, you have to understand the unique demographic reality of Los Angeles.
Okay, let's get into that.
LA boasts the largest population of Iranians anywhere in the world outside of Iran itself.
Wow, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's so culturally significant that the area is colloquially referred to as Tarangelis.
Right, Tarangelis. But this is a diaspora that is deeply, deeply divided.
Yes.
Our sources paint this incredibly stark, visceral contrast in the crowd that night. On one hand, you had fans arriving wrapped in the official Iranian flag, fiercely chanting for Team Melli.
Right.
But outside the stadium and sprinkled throughout the 70,000 seats inside, you had hundreds of others actively protesting the current Iranian government.
And that creates a tangible tension in the air.
I can imagine.
The stadium effectively becomes a microcosm of the nation's internal and external struggles. We have to remember the history here.
Yeah.
Many in this LA diaspora fled religious and political persecution after the 1979 revolution or during subsequent crackdowns. For them, the official symbols of the current state are symbols of profound trauma. Yet the 11 young men standing on the field wearing the national jersey represent their homeland, their culture, their shared heritage.
It's such a heavy contradiction, and this duality clashed the loudest right before kickoff during the national anthem.
Oh, that moment was intense.
When the Iranian anthem began to play over the massive stadium speakers, the reaction from the crowd was just chaotic.
Yeah.
Our sources describe loud, piercing jeers and whistles echoing through the teardrop canopy, trying to drown out the music. Some fans literally turned their backs to the field in protest.
Right.
But at the exact same time, other fans were singing along at the top of their lungs, trying to support the players.
It's a profound auditory representation of a fractured identity. And the visual rebellion in the stands was just as loud as the audio.
Yes, the flag.
Dozens of fans were actively wearing or waving the pre-1979 lion and sun emblem.
And what exactly does that signify?
This is a flag associated with pre-revolutionary Iran, and it is explicitly banned by the current government.
Right. And here is where it gets incredibly interesting from a legal standpoint.
Oh yeah, the lawsuit.
Because it wasn't just the Iranian government that banned that flag. FIFA had banned it from the stadium as well.
Yeah.
FIFA has incredibly strict terms of service for ticket holders against bringing what they consider political symbols or unapproved flags into their stadium.
Right. They want a sanitized, apolitical broadcast environment to sell to their sponsors.
Exactly. But they ran into the American legal system.
They sure did.
On the very day of the game, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge actually upheld a lawsuit challenging FIFA's ban on the lion and sun flags.
It was a massive curveball.
Hang on, explain the mechanics of that to me, because FIFA is a private entity running a private event.
Right.
How does a local LA judge have the jurisdiction to override FIFA's ticketing rules inside the stadium?
It comes down to the intersection of private events and publicly subsidized or publicly regulated spaces.
Oh.
The lawsuit essentially argued that enforcing the ban violated the fans' rights to free expression under California state law, particularly because of how the stadium operates within the local municipal framework.
Oh, interesting.
So the judge ruled that FIFA's private terms of service do not wholly override local free speech protections.
Wow.
So legally, the fans were allowed to bring those flags in, directly defying FIFA's mandate.
This is just a perfect storm of jurisdictional chaos. You have FIFA trying to enforce neutrality, you have U.S. local courts upholding free expression,
Yeah.
and you have the Iranian government watching the broadcast like a hawk. In fact, Iran's sports minister, Ahmad Daniemali, had issued a blatant threat prior to the game that the players would abandon the match entirely if political slogans were heard in the stadium.
Which would have been a catastrophic event for the tournament.
I mean, what happens if they actually do that?
Walking off the pitch at a World Cup isn't just a dramatic statement. It comes with massive legal and competitive ramifications.
Like,
Well, FIFA would likely enforce heavy sanctions, potentially disqualifying the team or heavily fining the federation. The players were caught right in the middle of this high-stakes game of chicken.
I really want you, the listener, to put yourself in the boots of an Iranian player standing on that grass for a second.
Yeah, think about it.
You are exhausted from a border interrogation. You look up into the massive stands of SoFi Stadium. You see your own country's flag, but it's a version of the flag that your current government despises.
Right.
It's being held by fans who are actively booing your national anthem, yet those exact same fans are desperately cheering for you to score a goal. Who are you playing for in that moment? The state, the diaspora, yourself.
It's an almost impossible psychological burden to shoulder. If we look at the research from the podcasting source we reviewed regarding sports media trends, it talks heavily about how fiercely tribal sports audiences are.
Yes, very tribal.
But usually that tribalism is incredibly simple. It's binary.
Us versus them.
Exactly. Us versus them, the Dodgers versus the Yankees. You wear blue, I wear pinstripes.
Right. Sports tribalism is usually pretty comfortable.
It is. But here, the tribe itself is deeply fractured. The duality of the diaspora is fascinating because they can simultaneously despise a political regime while desperately wanting to uplift the young athletes who were born on the same soil they were.
Wow.
The athletes become a vessel for national pride that exists entirely separate from the state.
A vessel for national pride separate from the state. That is a brilliant way to phrase it.
Thank you.
But eventually, the political theater in the stands and the VIP boxes had to pause.
Yeah, they actually had to play a game.
Right. The referee looked at his watch, blew the whistle, and for the next 101 minutes, including all the stoppage time, the focus of the world forcefully shifted to pure, unadulterated football.
And what a remarkably dramatic match it turned out to be.
It really was.
On paper, if you looked at the odds, this was a mismatch. Iran entered the tournament as a heavy favorite.
Okay.
They were drawn against New Zealand, who were ranked 65 places lower in the official FIFA rankings.
65 places. That's a huge gap.
Massive. Plus, New Zealand, nicknamed the All Whites, was playing in their first World Cup in 16 years.
But right away, Iran had to overcome some massive tactical hurdles. They were missing their star striker, Sardar Azmoun.
Right.
To a casual fan, missing one guy might not seem like a big deal, but Azmoun is the focal point of their attack. So their head coach, Amir Galanoe, had to completely adjust his game plan.
Yeah, he had to pivot hard.
He relied heavily on his captain, Mehdi Taremi, and his playmaker, Alireza Jahanbakhsh.
And to accommodate the loss of Azmoun, Galanoe utilized what our tactical sources described as a 4-4-2 hybrid system that flexed into a 4-2-3-1 depending on who had possession.
Okay, wait. Break that tactical jargon down for me.
Sure.
Because to a lot of people listening, 4-4-2 flexing into a 4-2-3-1 just sounds like someone reading off a zip code. What does that actually look like on the grass?
Fair point. Let's visualize it. A standard 4-4-2 means you have 4 defenders in a line, 4 midfielders in a line right above them, and 2 strikers up top.
Got it.
Picture 2 solid walls of 4 men standing across the field. It is a highly structured defensive setup designed to absorb pressure. It makes the team very hard to break down.
Like a fortress.
Exactly, like a fortress. But you can't just defend all game, you have to score.
Right.
So when Iran won the ball back, that formation flexed. One of those 2 strikers up top dropped back slightly, acting as a pivot or a playmaker,
Oh, I see.
turning the midfield into a diamond shape with 3 attacking midfielders supporting 1 lone striker. That is the 4-2-3-1.
Oh.
It allows you to transition quickly from a defensive fortress into a rapid counterattack.
But doing that, like constantly shifting between a rigid defensive wall and an expansive attacking shape, that requires massive amounts of running, right?
Immense amounts. It requires incredible discipline and physical stamina to constantly shift those shapes.
And stamina was an issue.
Right, as we just discussed, physical stamina was the one thing severely compromised by Iran's travel nightmare and depleted glycogen stores.
Ah.
New Zealand's coach, Darren Baisley, clearly knew this. He knew Iran would have heavy legs, and he had his team capitalize on that early lethargy.
They absolutely shocked Iran right out of the gate. I mean, we are only in the 7th minute of the match.
Barely started.
New Zealand's goalkeeper, Max Crocombe, gets the ball. Instead of playing it short, he just boots a massive long ball down the field.
Yeah.
It bypasses the entire midfield and finds their veteran captain, Chris Wood. Now, Wood is a massive physical striker who has played in the English Premier League for years.
Is a huge presence.
He uses his body, controls the ball, and flicks a header into the penalty box.
It was brilliantly direct, old-school football.
It really was. And waiting for that flick is a 26-year-old winger named Elijah Just, who plays his club football for Motherwell in Scotland.
Great player.
Just watches the ball drop over his shoulder, takes a touch to juggle it, and blasts a volley right past the Iranian keeper, Alireza Baranvan.
Incredible strike.
7 minutes in, and the 65-place underdog has stunned the stadium. They are up 1-0.
The execution was flawless, but strategically, it was a nightmare for Iran.
Because it bypassed their setup.
Exactly. Baisley's direct tactic completely bypassed Iran's organized 4-2 defensive walls. The ball just flew over their heads.
Wow.
And more importantly, it forced Iran to wake up. They realized they couldn't just sit back and ease their tired legs into the match. They had to actively chase the game.
And honestly, to their immense credit, they showed unbelievable resilience.
They really did.
They didn't fold. In the 32nd minute, Iran responds. It started with this absolutely sumptuous first-time pass from Saman Ghoddos driving the ball into the New Zealand penalty box.
Beautiful pass.
There's a chaotic scramble, a shot gets desperately blocked by a New Zealand defender, and the ball deflects perfectly into the path of Ramin Rezaeian.
And Rezaeian is a fascinating player.
Tell me about him.
He is a 36-year-old veteran right back.
Yeah.
For a defender of that age to have surged that far forward into the opponent's penalty box speaks to his incredible engine and desire.
He surges onto the loose ball and just stabs it into the net from close range. The stadium completely erupts. It's 1-1.
The momentum totally shifts right there.
It does.
That goal was vital because it proved that despite the heavy legs, despite the cortisol, Iran still possessed the elite technical quality required to break down New Zealand's defense.
Right.
But the match was far from settled. The second half brought another massive twist.
New Zealand was just not going on day. In the 54th minute, that exact same duo of Chris Wood and Elijah Knack just strikes again.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Wood gets the ball on the edge of the box, draws the attention of 2 Iranian defenders, and slips a pass to Just. Just takes a touch and coolly dinks the ball right over the keeper. It's 2-1 New Zealand. They retake the lead.
But the Iranian squad's sheer willpower kicked in again. Just 10 minutes later, in the 64th minute, Rezaeian, the veteran who scored the first goal for Iran, turns into the provider.
He gets the ball out wide on the right flank and delivers this pinpoint curling cross deep into the box.
Right.
Mohamed Mohibi, an Iranian forward, leaps up above his defender and glances a perfect header in off the back post. The keeper had no chance. It's 2-2.
And this is the moment where the cultural context of the stadium and the athletic achievement on the pitch directly intertwine again.
Yes. Let's talk about the celebration.
Because Mohamed Mohibi's celebration after scoring that equalizer became a major global talking point almost instantly.
Oh, the clips were absolutely everywhere on social media. He scores this massive emotional goal, and immediately he runs toward the corner flag and mimes shooting a gun.
Yeah.
Then he transitions into tapping his forearm, which is the ice in my veins gesture, and he finishes the sequence off by making a heart shape with his hands toward the roaring crowd.
It is a fascinating case study in the interpretation of physical gestures within a hyper-political environment.
How so?
Because of the geopolitical context, the war, the protests, the security crackdowns in Iran. The gun mime immediately sparked fierce criticism and debate online.
Oh, I see.
People projected violence onto it, But the ice in my veins gesture, that is pure American sports pop culture.
Right. It was popularized by NBA player D'Angelo Russell about a decade ago, ironically, when he was playing for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Exactly.
And their arena is quite literally just 10 miles down the road from where Mohibi was standing at SoFi Stadium.
It represents being cold-blooded under pressure. Mohibi actually had to address the celebration in the mix zone after the game.
What did he say?
He basically explained that the Iranian diaspora in LA had created this incredibly intense, passionate atmosphere. The celebration just popped into his head in the adrenaline of the moment, and the gesture was meant purely for the fans.
Ah, okay.
A mix of athletic swagger and love for the crowd.
But looking at the broader flow of those final 30 minutes after that goal, I have to bring us back to the physical toll.
Yeah, it caught up to them.
Because as the game dragged on, Coach Gallinoi had to make several substitutions, and he explicitly told the media later that they weren't tactical changes to try and win the game.
Right.
He had to pull players off because they were severely cramping up. You mentioned the cortisol and the glycogen earlier.
I did.
Is that 5-hour border commute the day before the sole reason a world-class team's legs give out in the 70th minute?
It is the primary catalyst, yes. Elite football requires peak cellular hydration, optimal muscle recovery, and rest.
Okay.
Sitting in a cramped bus alters your blood flow, which leads to fluid pooling in the lower extremities.
Ugh, yeah, I felt that on long flights.
Exactly. The stress spikes your heart rate, burning energy before you even step on the grass. The fact that Iran suffered such widespread cramping in what were described as very mild, comfortable Los Angeles weather conditions points directly to their compromised preparation. They simply hit a physiological wall.
And yet, despite the cramps, despite the exhaustion, the final statistics from the match are wild.
They really are.
Iran managed an incredible 17 shots on goal compared to New Zealand's 14. They held 49% possession, almost splitting the control of the game perfectly down the middle.
Yeah.
To maintain that level of output while your muscles are literally locking up reflects an unbelievable amount of sheer willpower.
They actually dominated the midfield transitions late in the game, which is usually when tired legs completely fail you.
Right.
It speaks to the deep emotional reservoir they were drawing from. They were playing on fumes and adrenaline. When the referee finally blew the final whistle, the score remained 2-2.
And the scene right after the whistle was genuinely moving. You saw players from both teams immediately embracing.
Yeah, great sportsmanship.
They're shaking hands, swapping jerseys. New Zealand's coach, Darren Baisley, said his team was disappointed not to get the win, feeling they were incredibly close to making history.
They were so close.
But for those few minutes on the pitch, there was this rare, beautiful moment of sporting unity and mutual respect.
It's exactly the kind of sanitized, unifying image that FIFA love to broadcast to the world to justify their tournaments.
But that relief, that unity, it lasted exactly as long as it takes to walk down the tunnel into the locker room.
Yeah, that's where the reality hits.
Because just as the players took off their boots, the geopolitical reality came crashing right back down on their heads.
This is perhaps the most shocking and sobering element of the entire story. The midnight eviction.
Right. Let's unpack this post-match twist because it is staggering. Normally, after a grueling 100-plus minute World Cup match, a team will stay overnight in their host city.
Of course.
You have players cramping, severely dehydrated, with micro tears in their muscles. They need standard athletic recovery.
Ice baths, deep tissue massages.
Carefully calibrated nutrition, and crucially, 8 hours of deep sleep. But instead of going back to a luxury hotel in California to recover, Coach Gallinoi and the Iranian team were ordered to leave the United States immediately.
Just unbelievable. They were forced to pack their bags, board buses, and were put onto an 11 p.m. charter flight back across the border to their exile camp in Tijuana.
Gallinoi was absolutely furious. Speaking through an interpreter to the press, he said, and I quote, "They didn't even give us time to recover. I think our team is perhaps the most oppressed in the World Cup."
Yeah, you can hear the frustration.
He detailed how the team was originally scheduled to stay the night in LA, do their physical recovery the next morning, and fly back the next day at lunchtime.
Which is standard protocol.
Exactly. But someone, somewhere in the bureaucratic chain, changed the plan. Captain Mehdi Taremi was just as blunt. He called the logistical situation an absolute disaster and publicly pleaded for FIFA to intervene and help them.
If we look at the why behind this eviction, it is a stark illustration of national security protocols completely bulldozing international sporting norms.
Right, that bubble you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about the FIFA bubble. FIFA's entire operational model relies on creating a frictionless environment.
Yeah.
They usually secure dedicated, highly guarded hotel floors, police escorts that blow through red lights, and expedited VIP customs to ensure players only have to worry about football.
It's like diplomatic immunity. FIFA operates like the Vatican, its own little sovereign state wherever it goes. They dictate the terms.
That is a fantastic analogy. They do operate like a sovereign state. But in this instance, the U.S. Border Patrol effectively walked into the Vatican and said, "Our house, our rules."
Wow.
The U.S. immigration policy, combined with the heightened security protocols surrounding Iranian nationals due to the recent war, meant that the players were not treated as VIP athletes.
No, not at all.
They were treated as high-level security risks who needed to be escorted out of the country the very moment their scheduled broadcasting event was over.
That's just wild.
Gianni Infantino was standing right there in their dressing room listening to their complaints, but he had absolutely no power to override the Department of Homeland Security.
It honestly reminds me of the old Roman Colosseum.
How so?
Well, it's like a gladiator being invited into the capital city to entertain the emperor and the masses. They fight their heart out. They bleed in the dirt. The crowd roars for them.
Right.
And the absolute second the spectacle is over and the crowd stops cheering, they are immediately thrown back out into the cold outside the city gates.
That's so true.
There is no hospitality. There is no humanity to it. It is pure utility. Entertain us, generate revenue for the broadcast, and then leave.
That captures the transactional nature of their presence perfectly. They were allowed into the United States strictly to fulfill a broadcasting and sporting obligation, but the underlying diplomatic hostility remained entirely intact.
Yeah.
It raises a fascinating contradiction about how we consume global events today. We want the drama, we want the passion, and we want the narrative of these international clashes, but we often completely ignore the human logistical cost required to stage them.
Which brings us perfectly to how the world was actually watching this drama unfold. I want to zoom out a bit and connect this incredibly intense, localized drama at SoFi Stadium to the broader global trends of how we consume sports and media right now.
According to the Sports Media Trends report we analyzed for this deep dive, we are looking at a massive structural surge in global sports viewership, particularly in the United States.
The data on this is fascinating. Globally, soccer is a behemoth. About 51% of people worldwide consider themselves active fans.
It is the undisputed global game.
But in America, it has traditionally lagged behind the NFL, the NBA, and baseball.
Right.
The data shows that only 27% of Americans currently consider themselves soccer fans. However, viewership for international soccer in the U.S. has been exploding recently.
Yeah, big time.
Tournaments like the Copa America and the CONCACAF Gold Cup have seen massive audience growth. And specifically regarding this 2026 World Cup, 37% of the U.S. population expects their interest to grow significantly as the tournament progresses.
And what's driving that massive growth isn't just the sport itself, it is how these events are being broadcast and delivered to the consumer.
Okay, tell me more about that.
We are firmly entrenched in the era of multi-platform broadcasting. It's no longer just about sitting on your couch and turning on a single linear television channel at a scheduled time.
Right, the old cable box.
Exactly. Networks are mixing traditional TV broadcasts with streaming platforms. Think about how NBC uses Peacock, or how Fox partners with Tubi to simulcast major events.
So how does that technological shift impact an event like Iran versus New Zealand? Why does the platform matter?
It matters because it lowers the barrier to entry. Complex, culturally rich stories like the struggle of the Iranian diaspora, the political protests in the stands, the grueling Tijuana commute, the midnight eviction, now have the ability to reach vast, incredibly diverse audiences.
Oh, I see.
People who might just be casually tuning in on a tablet on their commute or watching highlights on a phone or streaming on a smart TV. The algorithms push the drama to people who aren't even soccer fans.
And that makes sense because sports are increasingly competing directly with narrative storytelling for our attention.
Definitely.
Think about the massive boom in sports documentaries over the last 5 years. Drive to Survive, Welcome to Wrexham. Fans love the behind-the-scenes drama, the politics, the clashing personalities.
It's all about the story.
Right. But a live event like this match, with the backdrop of a literal war, a peace deal announced hours before kickoff, A divided crowd legally defying a FIFA ban with an ancient flag, an underdog scoring in the 7th minute, and a midnight deportation.
You couldn't make it.
It writes a script that no Hollywood screenwriter could invent without being called unrealistic. And it's happening live, completely unscripted, in front of 70,000 screaming people and millions watching at home.
This is exactly why live sports remain the ultimate reality television. They're not manufactured in a writer's room.
Yeah.
The pain of a muscle cramp from a 5-hour border delay is a real biological response. The tears of a fan holding a banned flag representing their lost homeland are real. The geopolitical stakes are tangible.
And this is exactly why this matters to you, the listener, in your everyday life. So often, sports are dismissed as just a game,
Right.
a distraction from the real world, a place to buy an overpriced hot dog and turn your brain off. But this match at SoFi Stadium proves unequivocally that a soccer pitch is not just a patch of grass.
It's a mirror.
Exactly, it is a mirror. It reflects our deepest global anxieties, our complex cultural identities, our political fault lines, and ultimately our incredible human resilience.
Yeah.
When you watch a match like Iran versus New Zealand, you aren't just watching 22 men kick a ball around. You are watching a live 100-minute negotiation of global geopolitics.
It forces us to confront how deeply interconnected our world really is.
Yeah.
You simply cannot separate the athlete from their passport, the fan from their history, or the tournament from the laws of the host nation.
So to quickly recap the incredible journey we've taken today, we started at a militarized border checkpoint, riding along on a grueling 5-hour commute from a Tijuana exile that drained the players physically and mentally. We stepped into the roaring, politically divided cauldron of Tarangelis at SoFi Stadium, where legally protected banned flags flew and anthems were simultaneously cheered and jeered.
Right.
We broke down the tactical shifts as an underdog New Zealand team shocked the world, only to see a resilient, exhausted Iranian squad fight back through sheer willpower for a gripping 2-2 draw.
And then the end.
And finally, we watched as the curtain abruptly fell, the diplomatic immunity vanished, and the athletes were evicted into the California night on an 11 p.m. charter flight.
It is a remarkable story of incredible athletic endurance that was entirely overshadowed by an unforgiving geopolitical reality.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder long after you take your headphones off.
Okay.
We started by picturing that beautiful, futuristic teardrop canopy over SoFi Stadium, a multi-billion-dollar structure designed to be a sanctuary for sport. But when the host nation of a global tournament is actively involved in diplomatic or military conflict with a participating team, well, does the concept of a neutral sporting ground truly exist anymore?
That's a great question.
Or, in our modern, hyper-connected world, has every stadium effectively become a geopolitical embassy?
That is the defining question for the future of international sports, and honestly, I don't think FIFA has the answer yet.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the 2026 World Cup. Keep staying curious, keep looking for the bigger stories hiding right behind the daily headlines, and we will catch you next time.